You guys don't realize how beautiful you all look today. But give yourselves a round of applause. You are beautiful. Proud to see you. Today, along with these 40 some odd folks in red shirts over here, I am risking arrest. I'm getting arrested to shut down Brayton Point. I'm doing this for one reason. Because I believe that no one should die for me to have energy. And make no mistake about it, that plant kills people. It kills people in West Virginia where we're blowing the tops off of mountains and turning people's lungs black. It kills people in Somerset and Fall River where we have higher rates of asthma and lung disease and cancer, and it kills people through climate change. That's not an easy thing to wrap your head around, how that plant is killing people, but look at it. That is a deadly energy facility. Now I'm going to tell you a short story about how that plant is contributing to killing human beings. In the summer of 2010, Russia experienced an unprecedented heat wave. Before that summer, the city of Moscow had never seen temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And over a 2-week period, they broke that record not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 8 separate times. The city of Moscow saw temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the first time in recorded history. And so most folks do what people do in heat waves, right? They didn't have air conditioning because it was Moscow. So they opened their windows to let the cooler air in, particularly when it got cooler at night or in the morning, right? To get that hot heat in their house out of the windows. It's just like when you're in a car, there's a baby or a dog in the car, you want to roll down those windows because they will bake inside. The same general principle applies in your house. So people open the windows to get that fresh air, that cooler air circulating. The problem with that strategy was that that same heat wave caused all the forests near Moscow to catch on fire. So people had a choice to either open their windows and let in the cooler, smoky air into their homes, or to shut their windows and to bake inside their homes. Put yourself in their shoes and think about what you would do. Raise your hand if you would open your windows to let in the cooler air with lots of smoke into your home. Raise your hand if you would decide to keep your windows closed and suffer with higher temperatures. Raise your hand if you'd get the hell out of Moscow. A lot of people did. The foreign embassies shut down. The United States told our embassy staff to evacuate and to leave Moscow until it's safer to return. But the problem with that strategy is that not everyone can leave Moscow. There are a lot of people who didn't have the wealth, didn't have the access to transportation, didn't have the flexibility in their employment where they could just leave town for a couple of weeks. They had responsibilities for their jobs, for their families. And over that 2-week period, when faced with that choice of opening their windows to let in the smoke or closing their windows to bake inside their homes, 11,000 people made the wrong choice. The wrong of 2 bad choices, and they paid for it with their lives. 11,000 people died in Moscow from smoke inhalation or heat exhaustion. Across Russia, 50,000 people died that summer from that heat wave. And that, my friends, is not the end of the story. Because that same heat wave decimated Russia's wheat harvest. And Russia is traditionally the 3rd largest exporter of grain in the world. And after their wheat harvest was destroyed, a quarter of it was just flat out gone, and the rest of it was lower yields, they banned the export of wheat. Which meant that food prices went higher around the world, but particularly in the part of the world right near Russia that imports 50% of its food from abroad. I'm talking of the Arab world. You think of the Arab world, you think of oil and deserts. There's not lush green valleys filling it. They have to import a lot of their food. They import 50% of their food from outside of the region. Egypt imports 50% of its grain from Russia. Which means when Russia stopped exporting grain, the Arab world, and Egypt in particular, saw much higher food prices. That was in the summer of 2010. As you know, grain lasts a little while, so you don't feel that price spike immediately. But in December of 2010, a young man in Tunisia who could no longer afford to provide for his family set himself on fire in protest of the economic conditions in his country. And that was literally the spark that started the Arab Spring. Now don't get me wrong, I thought the Arab Spring was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see people rising up and demanding their freedoms, demanding human rights and liberty. But the honest truth is that those desires for human rights and for liberty existed in the spring of 2010 and the spring of 2009, and they would have been there in the spring of 2012. But the reason we saw the Arab Spring happen in the spring of 2011 was because food prices were dramatically higher across the Arab world. And people who were afraid to take to the streets lost their fear when they could no longer feed their families. And they decided to blame the dictator at the top, and thank God that they did. Because we've seen other instances in human history where the people don't blame the dictator, where the dictator gets ahead of economic distress. And they blame other people, they scapegoat other people. And we're seeing that now starting to happen in Syria, where the dictator got to get ahead a little bit. He had advance warning from the other revolutions. And we're now seeing sectarian war in Syria that has killed close to 100,000 people. The Pentagon calls climate change a threat multiplier. It takes existing tensions and makes them a lot worse. And all of these changes, from the heat waves to the burning forests to the loss of grain to revolutions in the Arab world, all of those changes occurred with a 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature. The projections from scientists suggest that we could see temperature rises as high as 5 or 6 degrees by the end of this century. And make no mistake about it, that is not a linear increase. That is an exponential increase. And the higher we go, the harder it is to project what that will look like. But some scientists have tried, and the projected fatalities in a 5 degrees Celsius temperature rise are in the billions. Billions with a B. The top climate science advisor to the German government, which is a conservative government, put out a study suggesting that with a 5 degree temperature rise, 5 degrees Celsius temperature rise, it's closer to 10 or 11 degrees Fahrenheit, 9 degrees Fahrenheit. With a 5 degree Celsius temperature rise, the carrying capacity of the Earth, the amount of food and water available for everyone would be for 1 billion people. 1 billion people. There is nothing else that I'm aware of that threatens to kill billions of human beings. But that plant is part of that problem. That plant is a threat to everything in this world that you hold dear. To every issue that we want to work on and care about, that plant threatens every single part of that. And every single plant like that around this country and the world is doing the same damn thing, and it needs to be shut down. So again, I don't think it's fair for me to say that for me to get energy, that plant should stay online and people should die. Does that sound fair to you?
No!
Does that sound just to you?
No!
Does that sound fair to you to say that the people of Somerset who've been carrying the burden of these health effects for the past 50 years and the workers who've been providing the energy that we've demanded, does that sound fair to you if we just leave them hanging as we make this transition? Does that sound just to you?
No!
That's right. Damn right. That's why we're calling for a just transition for the community that hosts this facility, for the workers that work there, because we are all in this together, folks. We will rise or sink together. We will stand with the workers, we will stand with this community, but we cannot allow their reliance on this plant to delay our action. We cannot use that as an excuse and to say that people should continue dying because we can't figure out a way to transition fast enough. We want power without pollution. Say it with me. Power without pollution.
Power without pollution!
Energy without injustice.
Energy without injustice!
Power without asthma.
Power without asthma!
Energy without cancer.
Energy without cancer.
Power without catastrophic climate change.
Power without catastrophic climate change.
Energy without death.
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 Governor Patrick,
Governor Patrick.
shut down Brayton Point.
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 You all are beautiful. I love you. We're going to need every single one of you in this fight. Thank you for coming out today. This is the beginning, not the end. We'll see you back here soon. We'll see you in the halls of the State House. We need you all to win this. Stand with us, and we'll see you in the streets.